Sometimes I wonder why I put myself through incredibly stressful situations for virtual bragging rights and a temporary boost to my serotonin levels. Today, we're going to be taking on one of the most stressful achievements ever in Dead Space 2, Hard to the Core. To get this achievement, you need to beat Dead Space 2 on the hardcore difficulty, which is a brutal difficulty where enemies can sometimes just outright kill you, and resources are scarce. And if that wasn't enough, you can only save 3 times for your entire playthrough. So if you die on chapter 12 and you haven't saved since chapter 7, well, I hope you like replayability. Now, I tried getting this achievement 10 years ago when I was but a baby achievement hunter, and I failed miserably. But with time comes experience, and now I'm back to tackle this achievement finally after a decade and see just how much better I've gotten since 2011. The road to our first save shouldn't be too hard. Big emphasis on shouldn't.
Oh god.
We start off by running out of this area and taking some unfortunate scripted damage. And scripted damage being damage we can't avoid. We meet a nice fellow who frees us from our straitjacket, which lets us collect items we're going to use for the rest of the playthrough. The trusty plasma cutter, which we get fully upgraded. Kinesis, which will be helpful for saving ammo. When I remember to use it. And stasis, a godsend that we'll abuse. After a bit of progress, we get to our first store and buy the first suit upgrade, which is going to give us a 5% armor boost. But it turns out 5% isn't really much, and if you watch the opening of this video, you already know how this next part ends. I miss both stasis shots and die, which sends me back to the start of the game.
Oh my god.
After about 20 minutes, we get back to the boss and manage not to completely whiff everything, and we take it down with relative ease thanks to stasis. Soon after, we're introduced to the worst enemy in the game, Dog Boys. These enemies move at light speed, they leap at you, and they do a lot of damage. If I ever come close to dying, usually these guys are involved. But man, does it feel good to kill them. The game also throws another new enemy at us that will explode when we kill it if we're not careful. And that leads into another sequence where we have to defend ourselves while hanging upside down. Who did it first, Dead Space 2 or The Last of Us? You can take a lot of damage here if we're not constantly looking around and using stasis when enemies get too close. And once we manage not to get crushed, another new enemy.
There is only one thing worse than a rapist. Boom. A child.
They die in one shot, but you can be overwhelmed pretty easily since they always come at you in large numbers. After babysitting, we get a quick break in the elevator and are introduced to yet another new enemy type, that makes more enemies by using dead bodies, which I'm pretty sure is illegal, so it's our public duty to get rid of it. Making it this far, we treat ourselves to some health upgrades and get a new suit, granting us 10% armor this time, and we'll be wearing this suit for the majority of the game. So far, smooth sailing, until I come across my biggest weakness in games: environmental damage. And so we start the game over again.
Oh my god.
About 5 seconds for you and 3 hours for me. We're back. This time, looking both ways before we cross the fan. There's no real strategy here for the kids. I just kind of run around in a circle and hope for the best. A bit further in, and we're ragdolled into some set pieces where all we have to do is shoot the red objects. Pretty easy, right? Well, somehow I managed to miss 5 times here and almost have to restart the game again. I don't want to talk about it. But with that, we can finally make our first save at the start of chapter 6. I gotta say, at this point, it feels so nice to be able to finally have a save on the board. So now, if I die, we won't have to start from the very beginning of the game. Now, it would also be a good time to explain my saving strategy for this playthrough. Dead Space 2 has 15 chapters total, and I plan on making saves at chapter 6, the end of chapter 9, and the end of chapter 13. I wanted my first save to be pretty deep in because honestly, the first part isn't too bad. The end of chapter 9 has a dangerous boss, and the entirety of chapter 10 is dangerous. Finally, the end of chapter 13 has a mandatory sequence where it's possible to just insta-kill yourself, so I'd rather not deal with that.
That's dumb.
With our plan set, we push forward. The game's starting to throw out more varied groups of enemies at us now, and some tricky enemy placements. We come into another room with crates, so we know we're gonna have to deal with more chickens again. We back ourselves against the wall and get ready to use stasis when they strike. After that, we head back to the elementary school. The enemies here, again, die in one shot, but we have to be careful to not be too close when killing them.
Can I just
Working our way through the school, we come up to the best jump scare in the game, then deal with some more angry children. With that horrible trip down memory lane done, Isaac continues the trek further into the space station. In this next section, we have to deal with a brute and abuse stasis because if it touches us, we're basically dead. With good spacing, we move past that and we're on to chapter 7, halfway through the challenge at this point. Our next hard task is surviving this elevator ride while being attacked by multiple enemies. This part can be very dangerous as there isn't really anywhere safe to stand, and I didn't really have a game plan for this other than essentially spinning around in a circle, checking each window, praying I didn't take too much damage. and somehow that worked. Surviving that, we get to the next store and buy the force gun. Something we should have used in the next room, but I'll just let the clip play.
Jesus Christ.
I really thought I was going to die there and ended up using way more health items than I wanted to. But luckily, in these next sections, we solved some puzzles, including getting Pang, an Easter egg that we can sell for a lot of money in the store. Isaac finally does some engineering. And after a brief rest from combat, we're in this section where we have to survive until a door opens, while getting attacked from pretty much all sides. We get notified that the door is open, but I get slowed and we're still getting attacked. And we're running out of oxygen, so literally everything that could go wrong here did. But luckily, somehow we make it out. There's a store right outside the area, so I go ahead and spend my life savings buying a bunch of heals back. Then, we get to put the force gun to use and just absolutely bully this enemy.
Why you bully me?
After, we come across a bench, which allows us to finish upgrading our health to the max, because from here on out, the game isn't going to pull any punches, except for whatever that is. A couple more rooms, and we can finally make our second save. On a different save slot, of course, just in case something goes horribly wrong. Our journey to Save 3 starts immediately with a boss fight. Kind of. We have to fling explosive containers into that thing, but there will be a giant enemy trying to kill us while we do. Being the 300 IQ person that I am, I realize you can take the containers from above and take them down with us, which will make the fight a lot quicker and more manageable because even if we do kill the enemy, more will spawn.
Isaac, no! This is a really bad idea.
I'll stick around. I'm full of bad ideas.
With that cleared, we move on to Chapter 10 and step on to the Ishimura, the setting of the first Dead Space, which is basically a death trap. This area is filled with extremely dark corridors and tight spaces, and is our first taste of the game really just throwing enemy after enemy at us from every direction in the dark.
All good. They're swarming in through a hole in the medical deck. At least you won't have to go through there.
Unexpected obstruction ahead. Shutting down. Welcome to the medical deck.
I almost die a couple times, but taking things slow, we make it off the ship and to Chapter 11. Chapter 11 continues the trend of throwing multiple mixes of enemies at us at once, making sure we keep our head on a swivel, or surely die from something off screen. At this point, I'd like to introduce you to the contact beam, or as I like to call it, the fuck you gun. If I'm aiming at something with this gun, it's gonna die. But the ammo is scarce, so I can't always use it. A bit deeper in, we get our final armor upgrade, the advanced suit, providing us with a nice 20% armor bonus, which we're desperately gonna need. We immediately get to test it out in the next room on an elevator ride, another tight space with tons of enemies being thrown at us. But with a good mix of spacing, a force gun, and the plasma cutter, we make it out of the death trap. Here we have a rare case of Isaac actually doing some engineering once again. Okay, so this next part, we're supposed to leave and get on the big tractor while some enemies spawn, but the enemies that actually spawn die in one hit. So we take advantage of this and farm them for some items. Using the pulse rifle, this is pretty safe and is essentially free items and money. I do this for about 5 minutes. And then we're out of one death trap and into another, and this time on rails. I was a bit terrified of having to do this part on hardcore, but it actually wasn't too bad. The worst thing about it were the enemies on the outskirts shooting spikes at us. Anything on the actual platform with us got blown away by the force gun. Do that for about 5 minutes, and we arrive at chapter 13. Now, I've got some unfortunate news about chapter 13. I had to get up to do something while recording, so I paused the game and I paused the recording. But due to my predisposition for being a goober, I forgot to unpause the recording. So basically none of chapter 13 got recorded, except for me reaching the save, because that's when I was going to end the recording. Sorry about that. But on the bright side, we made it. The final part. So this is it, the final stretch. At this point, I'm both excited and scared. Excited because we're finally at the end, but scared because we're at the end, and hardcore mode is going to throw everything at us in hopes of crushing our spirit. I'd also like to say that if you've made it this far, thanks for watching, I appreciate you. This is a different type of video than what I normally make, but I had a lot of fun making it, and I hope you're enjoying the journey.
I built that. What are they doing?
They're all coming to the marker. Convergence.
I remember this.
So we've come to the dreaded eye machine. This is the reason we just saved in chapter 13. If you're not careful here, you can just flat out die. After going through that, the game introduces us to the Giga Chad Necromorph. Literally. We cannot kill this enemy. We can only slow him down by cutting off his limbs and causing him to regenerate. And he's going to be chasing us for the rest of the game. And we still have to deal with regular enemies too, so in my expert analysis, it's best not to stick around in one area and just kind of plow through the enemies with the force gun and stasis. In a brief restroom, we'll check our items one last time and head through the doors to chapter 15, where we get assaulted immediately. Dead Space 2 knows I hate these dog posts, and now they're just everywhere in an attempt to stop me. Which, they do. So we start over again. We watch the cutscene, then on to the eye machine where... And so we start over. Again, this time being careful with the eye machine and avoiding most of the enemies. until we literally get one shot. And so we start over again. We watch the cutscene, do the eye machine, slow down the Giga Chat enemy, making it back to the final store area again. This time I put some upgrade points into the contact beam for its alternate fire that's going to come in handy during the final boss fight. And hopefully start our final run to the end of the game. I'm so close to conquering the mode that defeated me 10 years ago, and it all comes down to this.
Thank you, Isaac. Now, time to die.
What?
With the contact beam's primary fire and the fully upgraded alternate fire, we make short work of the final boss. The only thing left is to not choke and crash into anything on our way to the rescue ship. And there it is. After 10 years, hardcore mode is finally beat. Unfortunately, there's no Steam achievement pop, but it feels so good.
Holy crap.
Thank you guys for going on this journey with me. If you got any suggestions for other hard achievements or games to 100%, let me know in the comments. And until next time, take care.